Sorry, I didn't mean to catch you off guard.
That's okay.
And if the clerk will call roll, please.
Counselor Bolin is absent. Counselor Elliott?
Here.
Counselor Fisher?
Here.
Counselor Grizzle? Here. Counselor Reeskamp is absent. And Counselor Scott is Skyping in this evening.
Here.
There we go.
Thank you. Okay, approval of the council minutes from the October 23rd work session and the November 13th regular session. Are there any corrections or additions to those minutes? Okay, seeing none, those minutes are approved. Consent calendar. Any questions or corrections or additions on those?
I'd move for approval.
It's been moved, sorry.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent calendar. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Consent calendar is passed. Okay, we'll have the public comment section. Council welcomes all respectful comments regarding city's business. Citizens may address the council by approaching the microphone, signing in, stating their name and address for the record. Each citizen is provided up to 5 minutes to provide comments. Council may take an additional 2 minutes to respond. The city clerk will accept and distribute written comments at a speaker's request. Any public comments? Merry Christmas, Bill. Thank you. Kim Olfers.
Depends on what I have to say, I guess. Hi, KJ Olfers. Is it working now?
Yes, it is.
Okay. KJ Olfers, 578 West Sherman Street. I don't have any real problems. I know that's unusual for me. I do want to thank the city. You guys catch enough grief, but I thought I needed to publicly say thank you. As some of you are aware, we took it upon ourselves at our church and the soup kitchen to set up an emergency warming center when this Arctic blast hit us. And the city has been very, very supportive of this, especially from the police department. Frank and his crew, he even had extra people out looking for folks to refer to us. They've been coming through, and not in a heavy-handed way. Quick story, one of your officers, and I still haven't found out his name. I'm going to get it and get it back to you, though. We have everybody segregated. We had the kids off into one room, and one of his officers went in and struck a chord with one of the little girls, a little 7-year-old. And he told her, look, I want you to call this number and tell them that when it comes time for a shop with a cop, you want me. And if they don't let you have me, I want you to call me, and I'm going to make sure, because you and I are going shopping together, little girl. And that does so much. It's unbelievable. The mother was in tears. They're a family that couch surfs. If you're not aware of what that is, let me know, and I'll tell you later. We are running it again tonight. We've been running it every night since Friday. We provide a meal, a warming area, a safe place to stay. I go over at 6 in the morning and cook breakfast so they have a meal to eat. And it's a much needed thing. Our church is doing this, like I said, on the fly. We've had some help from one of the Lutheran churches. And it points out that we need something a little bit more formalized, a public-private coalition that we can activate when we have these kind of events that happen. Not something that we want to run all year long. We don't want to end up with a gospel mission here, but it is much needed. We're running right now about 18 people a night. We've actually got the folks from down under the bridges and down in the park to come up. First couple nights, they would just come up and get something warm and warm up their dogs, and I mean the four-legged ones. And then they would leave back to their camp because they just didn't trust us yet. Now they do, and they're staying. So they're starting to come out of the woodwork a little bit, and I think that's great, so we can maybe help address some of their issues if they're willing, but we can't do it all by ourselves. I had a wonderful meeting today with our city manager, and we've got some ideas going forward. Nothing that's going to solve this year, but possibly going forward. And I think that you guys just needed to be applauded for that. And also, our Lord Mayor, I will say, I got a call saying, you need to come see me, I've got something for you. And I went down Sunday morning, and Dawn actually answered the door in her PJs because someone was still in bed. But we ended up with a bunch of nice big jackets, scarves, and things like that. And for one of our guys, it was a lifesaver because he's walking around in something like this, but he's like my size. And you had a 2X jacket in there that fit him perfectly, a nice big downy one. So I just wanted to say thank you and let you know what we're doing and give you kind of an update, because I know there's been a lot of word around that this was going on. You guys have been great getting the word out, but you needed to hear what's going on. So if you have any questions, please feel free. Otherwise, I'm going to get out of your way.
And thank you very much for the work you guys are doing, and everybody over there. And I had a gentleman come by the house today that is one of the people who use the shelter, and it was pretty touching today. So he was thankful.
Good.
You guys are doing a good job.
Thank you.
Thanks.
That's what we're supposed to do. Okay, thanks,
Thanks.
guys. I'm going to go and change my shoes now. See you later.
Any other public comments? Okay, seeing none, we'll move into the public hearing. This is the time and the place set for the public hearing, the matter of Norma Villalobos, appeal of a denial of an animal permit by the City of Lebanon. This hearing is now open at 6:07 PM. And are there any declarations of ex parte contact, conflict, or bias by any members of the council?
Hello.
Hi. It'd be just 1 minute, okay? Okay, first we'll have a staff report from the city manager, and then you'll be able to talk, and we'll ask you questions.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, City Council members. We did receive a request for a special animal permit pursuant to our code. That animal permit application was actually received when there was a complaint received by our code enforcement officer, who went out to the house and found the house to be in violation and advised Ms. Villalobos that if she wanted to potentially keep the animals that were there, she needed to apply for a permit. It appears by all means that she attempted to comply with the requirements to check out if neighbors had any complaints. However, in obtaining the signatures on her petition to have domestic animals or non-domesticated animals on residential property, there were indications that there were some property owners that may not have consented. They said that the comments were not interested, no thanks, not interested, no thanks, no, and it was not possible to tell if there were in fact people who consented or objected. The issue of a permit requires that there be nobody who objects within the 300-foot perimeter, and on that basis, I denied the permit.
Okay. Okay, and before you get to speak yet, are there any questions of staff on this, on the report that city manager has presented? Okay. Would you like to go ahead and speak now?
Yes, my name is Norma Villalobos. I came in here because I applied for my permit to for keep my chickens, and my permit was denied. So I don't know what I have to say, but I like to. I came in here because I would really like to have my chickens if the city let me to keep. So in case not, so I have to find other place for the chickens. So we are four, and our family we are. So my husband, he have a part time, so and I have a part time too. He say, well, we can have some chickens, but some neighbors say, well, you need to find a permit to keep our chickens. So we came to the. I came to the city of Lebanon to get the application to try to keep our chickens for having eggs. So that was it.
Has any neighbors come to you and complained at all?
Nobody, and this time nobody around us, nobody go to our house saying, well, your chickens are noisy or something like that. Nobody. Yeah, and we walk in our neighborhood and they say, it's nice we can have chickens, you know. You say, well, that's good. And I ask them if they hear any noise from the chickens. They don't hear at all. So,
Okay.
but some people, when I walk around with my daughters to collect the signatures, they say they don't not interested in the chickens. They don't like chickens, and some people they say they love chickens. They, you know, if in case I can't have it, they want to try to keep the chickens and things like that. So
Okay.
yeah, but nobody goes on our house and says any problem with the chicken or something.
Okay. Any other questions from council?
So somebody called to complain, because Kevin wouldn't have gone to the house if she didn't have a neighbor that was,
Councilor
had complained.
Griswold, that's correct. There was a complaint.
there was a complaint.
Yes, ma'am.
That is in the notes, I believe, isn't it?
Yes.
It's in the,
It's in the packet.
yeah.
Yeah.
When my question, when they called, maybe when I came to the city of Lebanon, we have a rooster, and we don't know we can have a rooster. So when I apply for the permit, we get away the rooster. Now we have only the chickens. Maybe I was wondering when they complain is when we have the rooster.
So you don't have the rooster now?
No.
Just the chickens?
Not anymore.
Because that looks like what the
Because when-
complaint was about, was the rooster.
When
wasn't
I came, they told me you can't have a roosters because they are so noisy. We said,
Right.
yeah.
Because people like me don't like roosters in the morning.
Yes, so.
Yeah. Because I personally I have neighbors that have chickens, and it doesn't bother me. I wish more people would. I think it's a great way to
Yes.
live. But it's hard to reconcile that with people who live in town and say, I don't want that. I don't want anything to do with that. It's hard to reconcile that. So we've had this before when I've been on council, and the best we could come up with is to say, look, you can have them, but anybody, one person close to you disagrees and the whole thing is off. And that's the only fair way we can think to manage that, because it is a city, you know,
Yeah.
and so that makes it difficult. But I sympathize with your position, because I love for people to be able to do it.
Yeah.
And is it 9 chickens you have currently?
Yes.
Okay.
We have a 9.
Any other questions? Okay, seeing no other questions, thank you very much, and we're going to discuss it amongst ourselves now. Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Actually, I was going to ask, is there anybody in the audience that is either against or for the chickens? Would you like to come up? And if you could sign your name on an address there, please. And your name?
Andrea Beidler.
And are you for or against?
4.
For? Okay, go ahead. You have 5 minutes.
Actually, I've never done this before.
Oh, that's okay. Don't be nervous.
I'm actually for chickens because we were going to apply for a permit to get 9 chickens coming in either January or February. And so I was kind of shocked when she said that, when she came by and she was applying for it, we were like, yeah, that's great. I think it's fantastic that people can have chickens and other animals on their property. I was really surprised when we got the noticing that somebody complained about it, and it was a rooster, because we hear roosters all the time in town. So I don't know who complained, because we have a really good neighborhood, so I don't think it was any of our neighbors, to be honest with you, on our block
And
at least.
how far do you live from?
I'm on West Vine Street, so I'm just on the other side of her, but I'm on the south side of the street. And we hear them all the time in the morning. We actually like it. It's kind of
Okay.
nice. Sorry, Paul.
That's okay.
Some people are morning people.
I know, some people,
Yeah.
yeah. And some people stay up past 5
Yeah.
PM.
So I don't know. I hope she's able to get chickens because we would like to be able to get chickens, and our other neighbors have chickens as well.
Okay.
And
Anything else?
That's it.
Thank you very much. Thanks for
you.
coming.
I lied to you, Paul.
Come on up, Bill.
I don't live in her neighborhood, but in the summer, I haven't heard it for a while, but I would say from my house, it's over around Vine or Ash or someplace down that direction. But in the mornings, and I get up before 5, but I've heard roosters, and it don't bother me any. I got neighbor dogs that drive me nuttier than the chickens do. But as far as chickens, I don't see any problem with it, but
Is that East Vine, Ash?
no,
Or
it would
East Ash?
be west.
I'm pretty sure I have a rooster in my neighborhood too, but I'm a morning person and it doesn't bother me in the least. I would never be a complainer unless it smelled bad or they were otherwise disruptive.
What if it roosted at 6 PM?
Maybe 7 p.m. Right, I like it quiet after 7.
Checking. Is that it? Thank you, Bill. Any other comments? Okay. Public questions and answers are closed, and at this point, we'll have council discussion.
I'll start since I've already,
Okay.
I've stated my opinion. I think I love having an avenue where some people can have chickens. I think it's a wonderful thing, but there's no other way to do it fairly than to say if I'm in with a reasonable distance of you and I find it offensive, than to allow somebody to say they don't like it and not grant the permit. So I don't see a way around that.
Okay.
I was just thinking that the second young lady, if you were going to apply for a permit, maybe you could persuade the holdout people, because you're going to have to talk to the same people.
I'm actually curious who said no.
It's a public record now.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
That's one option.
To
I
say,
mean,
look, maybe you could engage the neighbors to say, she had a rooster before and now she doesn't. How about now? Would you be open to trying it? And if you're going to have that conversation with the neighbors anyway, might be a good avenue.
Because if they rescinded, then there's no issue, correct?
Yes, Ms. Villalobos would always be free to reapply with a permit showing that everybody was in agreement with her keeping the chickens.
Yeah.
Okay. Mayor, just reading this, I'm looking at this purely because I'm fascinated by words and the law and everything. And I guess I look at what we've done. I read the statute that says that they can have it so long as there's no objection by a person residing within 300 feet. And what we've done, and obviously we've probably done this for a while, is kind of reverse the burden of proof, if I can use that terminology, of requiring the permit person to go out and request affirmatively permission to do this. And I think those are kind of two different things. I assume that we sent out notice to everybody within 300 feet of this hearing.
Of today's hearing, yes.
And either tonight or to the city, have we received any objections?
Not subsequent to that mailing.
Okay. I mean, so I guess, and I'm just looking at this purely from the language of the statute. I think we're kind of assuming that the instructions that we give them when they're asking for their permit is consistent with the ordinance that we've created. But I think the ordinance we've created that was passed, and I don't know how many years ago, quite a few, I'm sure, considering the language, 1983, that you should consider as a council what really is the requirements of this ordinance. and have we kind of changed the burden of proof to make their, because it's hard to get some people to sign anything.
Right.
I mean, there's one on there that said no solicitations.
Right.
So has there actually been an objection? And that's just, I'm asking you guys to think about that as you rule.
I thought about that as I read through the what people wrote. There was really ambiguous. It was like,
Not interesting.
yeah, it's like, so you don't like chickens, but can I have mine? It was hard to tell from what they wrote that, yeah, that it was a positive, negative, however you say that. Yeah, it could be, yeah. Plus, some people could be impossible. It could be impossible that they're, yeah.
Well, looking at it like you're presenting it, it would be more in line to grant this and then rescind it upon a complaint, if it warranted it.
Yeah, I think we have to look at, once they get a permit and I don't know what the permit says, how long it's good for and all that kind of stuff. I don't think that you can say, well, here's a permit, and then somebody complains a week later, then just rescind the permit. I think it has to be a different procedure than that. I don't know what it is to get a permit rescinded. But my point is that, people in this neighborhood clearly know about it because she's walked the neighborhood. They were sent notices of the hearing and their opportunity to object. And my question to the council is have you actually received an objection?
I would say we have because it was complaint driven. So she clearly has at this point at least one neighbor probably identified as one of the ambiguous answers here that objects to her having chickens. But if they were gonna go back out and say and have another conversation perhaps, I wouldn't be comfortable with approving the application tonight, but I would be comfortable postponing it for one more conversation with the neighborhood. I don't even know. I just want to be able to facilitate that somehow.
I think Councilor Fisher, you raised a point, and I agree with Trey. What I did was treat this as though there had been a permit issued. The problem we had is there was no permit and then a subsequent objection. There was an objection, which led me to believe there's somebody that doesn't want it up front, so why are we going to issue a permit? So on that basis, I would have required everybody within the 300-foot to say we have no objection. I would note to your comment that the address that was listed in the original complaint does not appear anywhere on the petition, either supporting or objecting or stating any. So that particular complainant was not even approached. So it's difficult to say that objection has been removed.
So that address then is further than 300 feet away?
No, it's within the 300 feet, but it is not listed on the petition.
Was not one of the homes that she visited?
Was not one of the homes that was visited.
So we just talked in a circle. Where does that leave us? What are our options?
Well, we can affirm and deny it. We can overturn it, and we can grant the application just the way that it is, or we can overturn it and then grant the application with certain conditions if we want to put certain conditions on it.
Well, it just pointed out to me that the person's address that complained originally, their comment on here was silly rules. If you look at 640 Rose Street.
640 Rose Street was the complainant?
Yes. But I don't know what silly rules means, but it doesn't sound like an objection per se.
Which page is that on, Floyd?
Yeah.
It's on the first of these signature pages.
Let those go.
640, okay.
She's like, no thanks. What does no thanks mean? Does that mean I object?
Yeah. It's silly rules. That is an odd comment. This line here on the second page in. about halfway down in red. Here? Right here.
It was always my opinion, maybe I'm wrong,
Address is the
that
complaint.
something like this, if we had any objections, why, it was a no-go.
Oh.
Not the policy?
Right.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, if we had clear objection tonight, that's what, even by one neighbor, that's what I'm saying is,
Yeah.
I don't see a way around that. I find that to be a fair way to run the city. You have one neighbor that doesn't want it, it's out.
Could I point out that on the top of the second page of signatures, there actually is a signature of Ed Jackson, who was the complainant.
So the one complaint that we had signed her petition,
And it says, by signing this petition, I'm certifying that I'm an adjacent resident and giving my consent to
giving
the
my
application.
consent. So even if they put comments on here,
It's the fact that they signed
the
it.
fact that they signed it,
They said it's
approved
okay.
it, and the one objection we had
Actually signed it.
actually signed it. Well, there you go.
And the way I read it, just to explain it, when I was looking at this is given out, and then the comments are not really for the neighbors to comment about what they think or don't think. It's really the signature that matters. The comments are there so that the person gathering the signatures can make notations as to their attempts to locate or contact the people. That's what the comments are supposed to be.
See, I totally misread that when I was reading those, so
I did too.
I would say since our one complaint, then obviously has approved, then I'm
So
okay with it.
We can overturn as is, or we can actually overturn with certain conditions if there's anybody on the council that feels there should be a condition. The only thing I would say is, but it's part of the law anyways, I believe, is that there can't be a rooster.
And she's
So-
already taken care of
And she's
that.
taken care of that part, so,
Sound like a good faith
yeah.
gesture.
So do I have a motion at all?
What is my motion?
To overturn the denial of application and grant the application?
So moved.
The second page in on the page 2?
I said so moved, meaning like ditto.
Okay.
Oh, do you want me to say that?
That would probably be better if you did, if
Okay.
you're making the motion.
Good Lord. I move to overturn the city administrator's denial of the application and grant the application by Ms. Villalobos to keep 9 chickens at 630 West Rose as submitted.
Thank you.
I have a question, if I could.
Question?
Would you change your decision based on what we've just talked about
Would I?
with Dana?
Oh, with Dana?
I would not have, only because there was an initial complaint, and I don't see that all people within the 300 neighborhood actually agree. As Trey said, that's a little bit of the shifting the burden, and if it were an initial application, I wouldn't necessarily need that. I would have done differently, but because there was a complaint, I would have required the 300 people in the area. So for instance, if the neighbor comes forward now and asks for it and has a petition that shows things, whether it's all the people or not, I would probably issue it based on the council's guidance.
But if we issue the permit and 2 months from now, the gentleman that signed her petition changes his mind again, the permit is, she's got to get rid of the chickens at that time, right?
She would, at that point, we would revoke the permit and ask her to remove the chickens. And we could go through this process endlessly, where she could go out and talk to the person, get them to change their mind, and we'd be back again on an appeal of our decision to revoke her permit. Yes.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor to overturn the city administrator's denial of application and grant the application to Ms. Villalobos.
I would second it.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
Did he?
Counselor Scott? Okay. Motion passes. Your permit will be approved. Thank you. City Manager report, Dina.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilors, I won't belabor the points that are already in the report, but will add some things just to kind of round it out. Regarding economic development, we've responded to 2 Business Oregon leads, one for a frozen food distributor that would bring about 150 jobs to the city potentially, and one actually for a plywood veneering operation, which would bring about 80 potential jobs to the city. These are very early stage, so nothing particularly to get excited about, and there are obviously numerous locations in the Northwest that will respond likewise to those potential projects. Regarding the potential expansion of rail facilities within the Lebanon area, there's a meeting out in Tangent at NH Hay, which will be attended by representatives of some of our federal delegation as well as state delegation. Any counselor who wishes to attend, if you would let me know, I will provide you the address and time information. You are certainly welcome, and in fact encouraged to attend. The essence of that meeting is to learn more about the grass growers who are now distributing compressed straw to the Southeast Asia market and are in jeopardy of losing their market if the Port of Portland loses the hand-gin container business. Mayor Aziz, and I don't want to steal your thunder, but we went to a visioning exercise last week now, and I intend to bring back to council in January a proposed schedule and a proposed plan so that we can begin both a visioning and a strategic planning process, which would take roughly a year, which would culminate in December of 2014 and allow us a better framework with which we can develop future budgets in year fiscal 16 and beyond. We've actually done some experimentation both internally with staff and at a Rotary group today on the initial process of kind of identifying where we're at as a city relative to what we're supposed to be doing, or what at least the citizens believe we should be doing. The fee waiver policy group or advisory group is pretty much put together. We're waiting on a response from one additional member. The individuals who have agreed to serve include Councilman Fisher, Mark Stainert, Gary Heinzman, and Bill Rao. And we're looking for one more member from the banking industry who's not heavily tied into nonprofits or other agencies that would routinely be asking for fee waivers. I know that Councilor Elliott, Grizzell, and Mayor Aziz were able to attend the employee appreciation event last week, which I think went extremely well. I'm very proud to report that our community responded extremely well to a request to show their support for our employees, and we had donations of $900 from NTEC to provide food for our employees. Walmart contributed a 42-inch large screen TV. Oregon Jamboree donated tickets. The train did not guarantee they wouldn't come by tonight. All in all, it was extremely successful event, and one of the big culminations was Mayor Aziz awarding the first Mayor's Extra Mile Award, and that was reported in the Albany Democrat Herald today, recognized by Dan Williams from the Road Department, Maintenance Department, as exceptional. I would commend Jason Williams, since he's here, and his crews for the work they did on the roads. I know that I got up very early Friday to try to determine what the state of the roads were, and Jason lives around the corner and he was already gone. So they were on the road extremely early trying to keep the streets safe for our folks. They're not perfect, but our police have responded to remarkably few car accidents and crashes as compared to other jurisdictions. I think that's a commendation to both our road department and our police department for being on top of things. They did an exceptional job given the weather. Lastly, I attended the Oregon Leadership Summit on Monday up in Portland, and the governor and both Senators Wyden and Markley were there, and it's clear that the priorities at the state legislature for the next sessions will be on reducing unemployment, increasing the average wage, and reducing poverty. So we can expect that legislative or funding efforts coming out of the state for next year will pretty much focus on those three things. And that's all I have.
Okay, and we have, this would be your ticket here, schedule council work sessions. Water treatment facility design and project costs, January 22nd at noon. Is that what your form is for, that we filled out?
That's for specific meetings.
Okay.
Individual meetings prior to the work session.
Okay, does January 22nd at noon work for everyone?
At noon?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
That'd be a work session.
As far as I know.
I believe that's okay for me.
And what time of day was that, January 22nd, at what time?
Noon on January 22nd. Counselor Scott, what's your availability on January 22nd at noon?
Unfortunately, I probably can't give you a definitive answer at the moment. January 22nd, I'll likely be unavailable.
Okay. Okay, and I'm available on the 22nd at noon also. And then we have the city financial policies, annexations, connections permits, water fees, SDCs, February or March. So we don't have a specific date on that. Is that the one that you, I know you passed that around and we filled that out.
No, that was.
That's different, isn't it? Okay. So do we need to set a date for that? For this? Or is it just to talk about?
I'll leave that to the city clerk as to whether she needs to lock those dates in or not.
On the February, March dates?
I'm just not sure what your schedule is, so if you want to go ahead and schedule one in February or March, I would be inclined to move it to March, but I'm not sure what your schedule is like in March. With spring break and all that kind of stuff, I don't know if that affects you.
And we're
Yeah.
going to have budget meetings, I'm guessing, the beginning of the year?
There are some meetings, and they're contained actually in the consent agenda, or the consent calendar, that calendar.
The last week of March is the Houston Open.
Is what?
I may be gone. I'm hoping to be gone to Houston that week. So any other time.
We can bring this back as well next month.
It might be,
Ironed out a
might be
little bit more.
better. Okay, we'll talk about that next month. Items from council? The one question I have is about, I talked a little bit about Trey to it and to City Manager Levac about the Skyping, and as far as if it's in our charter that it's acceptable as far as a public meeting, if it's a quorum, and those kinds of things. So I'd like to discuss that a little bit. I don't know if we can do that without having it as an item tonight, but it's something that I think that we need to discuss. Not that there's anything wrong with it, I just want to make sure that we're doing it properly, and if it's something we can do.
Well, and just brief background, Councilor Scott had indicated he may have difficulty being physically present for some meetings, but that he'd otherwise be available, and I wanted to ensure that we at least had the means for him to be able to communicate with the rest of the council during those meetings. In looking at that issue, I reviewed the charter, and it simply describes attendance, but does not say whether that attendance needs to be physical or simply audio or audio and visual. What I would suggest that we do is we will put on a subsequent agenda a review of that particular portion of the charter, although I might suggest a broader review of some of the issues on our charter might be appropriate, but that at that time we can review it and discuss any changes the council may wish to make in light of at least the best technology we have at this point, which seems to be working fairly well, but not perfectly.
Well, I'm all for technology. What's that?
It's fairly common
Yeah, that's what I thought.
to be changing it to allow alternate means of attendance.
We just need to make sure, though, that there's not something that says that you have to physically be present to be a voting.
Correct.
So those are the kinds of things
Yeah, I mean, we can take a look at it. I think it would be more in Chapter 2 with respect to the procedures for the meetings. And it's something that, if it's not, and I assume Dana looked at that, it's not specifically prohibited. Of course, when we passed the charter, nobody knew what Skyping was. But if it's not prohibited, then certainly, we get to run our own meetings. And if we wanted to add something or amend Chapter 2 with respect to the city council meetings to allow for either video or, just conference call, we certainly could.
Okay.
And I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I didn't know we were going to do it until tonight, but I think it's probably pretty simply addressed.
Okay. Counselor Scott, are you going to have to do this often or in more cases? Do you know? Counselor Scott?
I'm sorry, I can't hardly understand.
Okay. Do you know if you're going to need to Skype more often? Are you not going to be able to attend meetings? I'm just kind of trying to get a feel for...
Paul, I'm afraid this connection is such that I cannot understand you.
Okay. So I guess maybe Skype's not the best way to do it. There's our answer. Can you hear me, Barry?
I'm hearing snatches at the moment. This connection
Okay.
is coming and going.
Okay. Let's move this discussion to next meeting because I think it's something that we should probably have.
We'll place it on the regular agenda for January.
Okay. And that's all I have. Anybody else? Okay, at this point, we'll adjourn the regular meeting, move into executive session, and if we could clear the chambers and
Do
take
you
it.
want to do public comments before?
Oh, I'm sorry. We have to have public comments. Any other public comments before we go? Any other citizens? Okay. In that case, then we'll adjourn and move into executive session.